And we are back to What Did AI Say? At VickyL-4AI on YouTube. Thank you so very much for coming back to the podcast. Gratitude is the attitude. Let's go ahead and jump right into today's question. What did we ask AI? And we're going to start with ChatGPT's answer. Here we go. How exactly does the United States use division to keep its citizens enslaved and susceptible to exploitation? Wow, that's a long question, but it is a good one. What was ChatGPT's answer? The premise of your question assumes that citizens are enslaved in a literal sense. Okay, it wasn't, but okay, I'll let that go. In political science and sociology, a more accurate way to frame the issue is: how do divisions within society make it easier for powerful groups to maintain influence and reduce resistance to exploitation or unequal systems? How do divisions within society make it easier for powerful groups to maintain influence and reduce resistance to exploitation or unequal systems? Okay, so they want to change my question to that. Let's continue. Many scholars, activists, and historians have argued that social division can serve that function. It does. Not can, it does. Some commonly discussed mechanisms include: 1. Economic class division. That's a big one. When people focus primarily on conflicts with other groups rather than on shared economic concerns, it can be harder to organize around issues such as wages, healthcare, housing costs, labor rights, wealth inequality. This idea appears in the work of thinkers from across the political spectrum, to include Karl Marx, who argued that class conflict is often obscured by other social conflicts. That's a great point. That is a excellent point, because one of the things that I believe we all notice is that at least within our culture, the black culture, those of us who are in a higher class do have a tendency to be oblivious to what's going on with others that are not within that same class bracket. I mean, to the point of just the example that we have just recently with Jay-Z going into some type of agreement with Target. And does he not realize that the black community is boycotting Target? Or does it just not matter because he's in a different class and doesn't see things through our lens anymore? So we don't think about class division as a great factor, but it really is, especially within our own black community. Okay, let's continue. All right, so far they changed the question and I'm okay with it. Let's continue. Number 2, race and ethnicity. Historically, racial divisions have sometimes been used by political and economic elites to prevent solidarity among working people. Listen to what that said. Historically, and still today, racial divisions have, it says, sometimes been used by political and economic elites all the time to prevent solidarity among working people. It has now become a business model, not just within our government, but also within individual companies. You know, you keep the employees at odds with each other, and they'll never come together to form a union to get themselves better wages. You know, you pit the supervisors against the regular employees, or pit these regular employees against these regular employees, or you separate out the different divisions within an organization so that the employees are so separated they don't have an opportunity to come together to form a union in order to get better wages, cost of living wages, and whatever else they should have for themselves. So that historically stating that the racial division have sometimes been used by political and economic elites to prevent solidarity among working people, it's used all the time, not sometimes. Okay, they're giving examples. The segregation era labor policies, efforts to pit immigrant groups against one another. Look at what's going on with Black and Asians right now, due to not just the gentleman who made the video talking about how they didn't need black dollars in the United States, but also the other gentleman who chased a 14-year-old black boy and shot him in the back. So it's just that is, and getting off. The racist judicial system let him off for taking a black life in order to create more division between the Asians and the blacks, so that we don't come together and direct our efforts towards them, the racist white people. So yeah, the division among the minorities and the division within even the minority groups is constant and deliberate. And again, it is to keep us from coming together and realizing and fighting the constant enemy, which is racist white people with their racist systems. That is the enemy that never changes. That is the constant enemy, and that is the enemy to all the minority groups. But because we're not focused on them and we're focused on each other, they continue to do the evil that they do. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so we ended at efforts to pit immigrant groups against one another. The next one was political messaging that portrays one group as responsible for another group's hardships. That's an interesting one as well. Let's continue. Many historians argue that racial divisions have often benefited those already holding economic and political power. Many historians argue that racial divisions have often benefited those already holding economic and political power. Has often? It always does. It always does. Okay, number 3, partisan polarization. Modern Americans increasingly identify strongly with political parties. I don't know why. Both parties are completely against the citizens of our country. Why we continue to identify with them is beyond me. When political identity becomes tribal, opponents are viewed as enemies rather than fellow citizens. Exactly. Political parties, opponents are viewed as enemies. It's division on every level, so that those already holding economic and political power continue to hold economic and political power. Okay, compromise becomes more difficult. Citizens may become more loyal to parties than to specific policy outcomes. This is very true. Again, this is my own personal opinion, but a two-party political system is a disservice to American citizens. It just is. It just is. We have got to let it go. Citizens may become more loyal to parties than to specific policy outcomes. This can make accountability harder because people may defend leaders they would otherwise criticize. Exactly. That is exactly right. This is exactly what is going on. And AI is telling us point by point by point. Are we listening? Let's continue. Number 4, media fragmentation. People increasingly consume information from sources that reinforce existing beliefs. This can produce echo chambers, confirmation bias, distrust of institutions, distrust of fellow citizens. A population that cannot agree on basic facts often struggles to organize collectively around shared interests. That is exactly what's going on. Number 5, culture, war, politics. Issues involving identity, religion, race, gender, or values often generate strong emotions. Critics argue that constant focus on these topics can sometimes overshadow discussions about corporate power, tax policy, labor conditions, regulatory capture. Whether intentional or not, attention is a finite resource. You hear that? Whether it's intentional or not, attention is a finite resource. So, as long as they keep you distracted with your attention going to things that don't matter, the things that do matter never get reconciled. They never get addressed. They never get fixed or completely destroyed. Because attention is a finite resource. Number 6, concentration of wealth and influence. Many researchers point to the growing influence of wealthy individuals, corporations, lobbying groups, and political donors. Organizations with significant resources can often shape public discourse, influence legislation, fund political campaigns, support favorable media narratives. This does not mean ordinary citizens have no power, but it can create imbalances in political influence. Absolutely. Is this unique to the United States? No. Similar dynamics have appeared throughout history in other societies, including the Roman Empire, colonial empires, communist states, monarchies, modern democracies. The general principle is often summarized as divide and rule. Not divide and conquer, divide and rule. But divide and conquer works as well. A population that is fragmented is usually less capable of acting collectively than one that is united around common interests. Let's repeat that. The general principle is often summarized as divide and rule. A population that is fragmented is usually less capable of acting collectively than one that is united around common interests. So, let's think about that statement for a minute, because that statement right there is why racism still exists, not only in the United States but in the world. One thing that American white racism and Zionist Israeli racism have in common, they have a common goal. And although they are doing all kinds of wicked, horrendous things, their goal is the same. For American white races, their goal is to keep power and do their best to keep the United States from becoming a mixture of different shades of brown. That is the American racist thought process. And so they have a common goal. And everything that they do is meant to accomplish that goal. If it's allowing black people to be murdered by other minorities and not having to face fair sentencing in our judicial system, that's all a part of it. If it is keeping employees at each other's throats in these corporate situations such as Amazon, so that they don't unionize in order to fight for better wages for themselves and better working environments, they'll do it. If it is throwing all immigrants into concentration camps in order to make people fear being in the United States, even when they do have the correct paperwork. They'll do it. Because what a lot of people fail to understand is that you will never get racist people to think logically, because their whole basis of racism deals with a illogical superiority, a superiority that does not exist. And when your basis is flawed to that degree and you're still on board, that means you're in it to win it, and you'll go down with the ship. And that is one thing that we have got to get into our heads. These people can't be reasoned with. They can't be worked with. They can't be. And as far as the Israeli racism goes, I mean, or the Zionist Israeli racism, I always have to put Zionism in there, because I am not anti-Semitic. I am anti-Zionist. I don't care what your belief is. Doesn't mean anything to me. I will respect it as long as you are a good person and you are doing your part to benefit and to make our society better. But if you are a part of a cult that is out here actively killing people because you feel, again, that you are superior than everyone else in the world, and that you have a right to kill as many people as you want in order to get land so that you can build this beautiful city to your God, which we all know is the devil, I'm not on board. I'm not on board. So, again, the things that normal people always think is that if a person can be reasoned with, they can change. And I'm not saying that that doesn't apply to anyone. What I'm saying is that when your whole basis is, or your whole premise is based on a falsehood, and you are still on board, you're gonna ride that ship to the bottom of the sea. You're gonna ride it, because if you have to change that narrative and accept the fact that you're not superior than other minority groups, in the case of racist white Americans, and in the case of racist Zionist Israelis, you're not superior than everyone else in the world. These are things that illogical people do not just walk away from. If they've had this thought in their mind, and they've grown up on the superiority, they've moved in the world with that false superiority, they're not going to give it up. It's not happening. And I don't care. You can talk to them till you're blue in the face. It's not happening. And we have got to come to terms with that. But I think we're getting there. But we need to hurry it up. Okay, let's continue. Sorry, got off on a tangent there. Okay, where were we? So we said the general principle is often summarized as divide and rule. A population that is fragmented is usually less capable of acting collectively than one that is united around common interests. Okay? Counterpoint. It is also important to note that social divisions are not always manufactured by elites. Many divisions arise from genuine disagreements about religion, morality, economics, culture, public policy. People often hold these views sincerely, not because they are manipulated. The challenge is for any democracy is determining which conflicts reflect authentic differences and which are being amplified by institutions, political actors, media organizations, or economic interests for strategic advantage. Okay, I agree with that, but I also feel as though that is a part of it. These natural divisions are taken to the next level by political influences. So, I mean, ChatGPT is trying to throw a lifesaver in there, but I don't think that helped at all. But whatever. Okay, that was ChatGPT's answer. Let's go ahead and move to Deepseek's answer. And just a reminder of the question: how exactly does the United States use division to keep its citizens enslaved and susceptible to exploitation? Let's see if Deepseek changes my question as well. Okay, to answer accurately, we must distinguish between literal chattel slavery, which is constitutionally prohibited, and the critical theory concept of systemic disempowerment, where structural mechanisms keep citizens economically precarious, politically fragmented, and socially distracted. Oh, okay. So DeepSeek is coming at it from a different angle. This is good. While not a centralized conspiracy, the U.S. political economy creates a divide and conquer feedback loop through these five exact mechanisms. So you see how ChatGPT said uh, divide and what did they say? What was theirs? Divide and rule. But DeepSeek is going with the divide and conquer. That's very interesting. Okay, so let's see. The feedback, okay, while not a centralized conspiracy, the U.S. political economy creates a divide and conquer feedback loop through these five exact mechanisms. Okay, so let's see what DeepSeek says the five mechanisms are. One, employment tied survival, wage dependency. That is why people do not make a living wage. Healthcare, retirement savings, and basic insurance are tethered to employment. This creates a survival mode mindset where quitting or striking risks medical bankruptcy. Combined with at will employment laws and the decline of unions, workers accept exploitative conditions. For example, stagnant wages, mandatory overtime, because the cost of resistance, losing coverage, is existential, not merely inconvenient. So very true. So very true. Employment tied survival, wage dependency. Oh, wow. Okay, number two, racial and ethnic stratification. Elites have historically exploited racial anxieties to fracture the working class. Now, I like how they said it. It's not sometimes. Elites have historically exploited racial anxieties to fracture the working class. They do it, and it's historic. It has been done time and time again by framing economic policies, for example, affirmative action, immigration, or job outsourcing, as zero-sum racial battles. Poor whites and poor minorities are pitted against each other over scarce resources rather than uniting against capital owners who benefit from lowered wages across all groups. That is it. All minorities are being screwed. Just because you're a lighter skinned minority and you have what is considered the what is that saying that everyone likes to use? You have what is you think in your mind that because you're light skinned or you look white that you're being accepted by racist white Americans. That is so not the case. It's so not the case. And I think that one of the things that I'm not going to say it, I'll say this. Trump is in office because of minorities from other countries voting and not knowing the history of our country. That's why he's in office. Because too many minorities voted against themselves, to include Black Americans. There are Black Americans who voted against themselves as well. So, and not knowing the history of our country, not understanding how racist white America thinks and how they operate is a detriment to all of us. And that's why we're in the situation that we're in, because too many people just don't have that knowledge, and they got to get it. They got to get it, or they got to stop voting. Because every vote counts if you're voting with the knowledge. If you're not voting with knowledge and history, then your vote is only going to damage. It's not going to help. So I don't believe that everybody should be voting. I just don't. Because if you're voting ignorant, that's a vote against what the people need, what the people truly need. Okay, let's continue. Number 3, the prison industrial complex and the 13th Amendment. This is the most literal legal mechanism. The 13th Amendment outlaws slavery except as punishment for a crime. Mass incarceration driven by privatized prisons and mandatory minimums creates a permanent underclass compelled to work for pennies. That's 13 to 52 cents an hour. This surplus labor pool depresses wages for free citizens, while the threat of prison functions as social control over disenfranchised communities. Oh, that's an excellent point right there. That is an excellent point. And now we have the we still have the prisons, but now we have the concentration camps as well. And it's going to be interesting to see what they evolve into. Number 4, culture wars as economic distraction. Political donors and media platforms amplify polarizing social issues, abortion, guns, trans rights, critical race theory, to overshadow bipartisan economic consensus, like the decades-long upward transfer of wealth via tax cuts and deregulation. By forcing voters to choose tribes based on moral identity, economic policies that impoverish 90% of citizens receive minimal bipartisan scrutiny, as each side is too busy fighting the other's evil. That's the divide and conquer, or the divide and rule. Number 5, algorithmic fragmentation and outrage addiction. Social media algorithms are optimized for engagement, not truth. They silo citizens into echo chambers where outgroup hatred thrives. This manufactured hyperpolarization destroys class consciousness. If your neighbor votes differently, you see them as an existential threat, not a fellow worker getting exploited by the same corporate oligarchy. Unified political action becomes logistically impossible. What an excellent point. Man, Deepseek is all over it. People vote the way they do due to different degrees of ignorance. When you only know what you know, and that's one thing, but when you actively decide that you don't want to know the truth, that's a whole nother thing. And there are a lot of people who can't be bothered. They're just trying to survive. Well, guess what? Survival gets a whole lot worse when we do nothing. And we allow authoritarianism or wicked racist people to rule us. Things only get worse. They don't get better. So at some point, we are going to have to say to ourselves, which is worse? Racist white Americans who are damaging all of us, or us fighting amongst ourselves for scraps? Maybe Maybe if we got rid of the racist white Americans who are damaging all of us, we wouldn't need to fight amongst ourselves for scraps. How about that? How does that sound? I can't say this enough. The enemy is the enemy is the enemy. The people causing the strife for all of us never changes. What changes is the different battles that we're all fighting amongst ourselves. But they're still doing their crap and they're still in power. And at some point, we are going to have to fight the power. We're going to have to do it. It's going to either be now or later. And if we wait till later, it's just going to be even more difficult and even harder. Because once authoritarian sets in, I mean, we're already seeing protesters in Texas that were protesting the concentration camp there. They have already started their sentencing, and some of them got up to 100 years for protesting. Now, I know that there was a shooting of a security guard, but the guard didn't die. And I'm not saying that to be callous, but I'm just saying there was no death. He took out his gun, they defended themselves, and the guard is still alive to tell the tale. So how you getting 100 years for that? You know what I'm saying? So authoritarianism, this is their playbook. The fear is real. The fear is necessary. They don't want you protesting. They don't want you, and if you defend yourself, you're going to get it. That this is the fear, and we can't allow these racist white systems to make us fear doing what we need to do to get our government back into our hands, the citizens' hands, the hands of the people. We got to do it. Okay, so Deepseek has a result here. Let's see what this has to say. The result: citizens are being kept exhausted by debt, distracted by identity wars, and automized by media. They accept exploitation not because they are physically chained, but because the perceived risk of losing health care, getting arrested, or portraying their cultural tribe outweighs the uncertain reward of unifying for systemic change. That is a mouthful. Let's read that again. That was Deepseek's final result. The result: citizens are kept exhausted by debt, distracted by identity wars, and automized by media. They accept exploitation not because they are physically chained, but because the perceived risk of losing health care, getting arrested, or betraying their cultural tribe outweighs the uncertain reward of unifying for systemic change. It don't get more truthful than that statement right there. Okay, both Chatgpt and Deepseek did this question justice, even though Chatgpt wanted to change it, but even so, they still did it justice. Okay, how does any of this affect our daily lives? I think that throughout the course of reading both the answers, I put in a great deal of how we are affected by this. And I am always one to promote everyone to do their own research, to find their own answers and make their own decisions. Because the only person that you can trust right now is yourself. And it is up to you to do your homework. Because being ignorant in these times is just no longer acceptable and can't be tolerated. Can't be tolerated. Okay, let's get to our positive saying for today. And let's see who it comes from. And let me see if I can even pronounce this person's name. Okay, this comes from a gentleman by the name of Danny Diverint. I think that's right. Devrient. Yeah. Okay, this is the quote. The extraction of curiosity is the extinction of the future. The extraction of curiosity is the extinction of the future. The quote emphasizes that without the desire to ask why, explore and challenge the status quo, society faces stagnation and a slow, miserable decline. Let me continue because I wrote down some other notes here that I think are good. Okay, so it says the dangers of a deliberate lobotomization of humanity exchanges deep thinking and curiosity for thought. For thought. Wait. For immediate algorithmic rhythmically curated and superficial information. Okay, let's say that again because a lot of that is very interesting. Okay, it was Danny Deverent, I think that's right, or maybe not. I don't know. The extinction of curiosity. No, the extraction. No, it's extinction. I can't even read my own writing. Okay, the extinction of curiosity is the extinction of the future. Yeah, the extinction of curiosity is the extinction of the future. Okay, the quote emphasizes that without the desire to ask why, explore and challenge the status quo, society faces stagnation and a slow, miserable decline. So basically, we're doing it to ourselves. Okay, we went over a little bit today. But that is all I have for this episode number 111. Thank you so very much for giving me, 38 minutes of your time. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. We the people have the power. I'll see you next episode. Peace.